All right, so this is day 2. We are going to start here where we're talking about our next linear equation. Our next one is our standard, I did it again, is our standard form. And a reminder, it's this ax plus by equals c. Are you guys remembering that? So again, here's another equation you have to have memorized for your final. We do not give you this one. This one has like 2 picky things about it. In this equation, we can have no fractions. Do you guys remember that? And if we can't have fractions, Joseph, are you kidding me? No fractions and no, I'm not even going to edit that out, and no decimals. Okay. All right. So I'm trying to make this equation look like that. This equation is in what form that I taught you yesterday? Y equals mx plus b. So the first thing I see that x is on the wrong side, so I'm going to move that over first. So I'm going to subtract the 2/5 x. So now I'm going to have 2/5 x plus y equals -3. Okay, so I just subtracted over the 2/5 x. And now that I see I have a fraction, so how do I get rid of this fraction here? What do we multiply everything by? The 5. Yeah, whatever's on the bottom here, that's what we're going to multiply everything by. Okay. When we do that, it cancels out this 5, so I'm just left with -2x. I now have positive 5y equals -15. Okay. This looks like this. It's following all these rules, so you're done. Will you remember this? Okay. The other thing we did in this chapter, and again, this is going to be something you guys just have to know, we have our x-intercept, and that's when we plug in a 0 in for our y. So our ordered pair would be number, comma, 0. Whereas our y-intercept, I'm going to plug a 0 in for my x, so then it would be the opposite. I'd have 0, comma, number. Okay, do you remember that? Okay, so if I had this equation, right now this is in what form? Standard, okay. So I'm going to find my x-intercept. So I'm going to find x, and I'm going to plug 0 in for my y. So I'm going to have 2x minus 9 times 0 equals 18. Okay. This right here, this is just becoming 0, right? That's just going away. So then x is going to equal 9. Okay. So that's my x-intercept. Whereas my y-intercept, as we remember, it's the opposite. I'm going to have 0, comma, blank. So I'm going to have 2 times 0 minus 9y equals 18. This is going away. So y is going to equal -2. Okay. The next thing I want you guys to do is we're going to graph these over here on the graph. Reminder, the x-intercept needs to be on your x-line, and the y-intercept needs to be on your y-line. Okay. So this dot is going to go over here at 9, 0. This dot is going to go here at 0, -2. And we're going to connect them, hopefully better than mine, and we have a graph. Okay, to remember this. Okay. Can you guys do 31 and 33 on the next page? 31 and 33. All right. I gave you guys the answers to 32 and 34. Did everyone get C? Okay. And did everyone get C again? Okay. And then hopefully everybody has done a dot way out here, a dot down here at -6, and everyone has connected them. Okay. So that's standard form, x and y intercepts. Okay. Questions at all on that? All right. Our next section, ladies and gentlemen, is our graphing section. And again, do we all have a tool that could graph for us in case we forget how to graph things? Yes, okay. So we have these two types of graphs. We have these absolute value graphs. If we remember, absolute value graphs make a V shape. Do we remember that? And then these graphs over here, when you have an x squared reminder, those are our parabolas. Okay, so those are the two shapes that we have there. Again, I would super recommend if you have forgotten how to graph things, I would graph them using my graphing calculator. Okay, I'm going to show you real quick how to do this one by hand, because I actually think this one is faster to do by hand, but this one I'm going to prefer you guys plug into your calculators. Okay, so when we're doing these ones, reminder, this number up front here, that is our slope, so our m is -2. And then reminder, these two numbers here form our vertex, but reminder, we have to remember about this -3, that it flips, so it's actually going to be +3 and +5. Is this sounding familiar? Okay, so I'm going to have a dot here at 3, 5. Okay, and then my slope here, I'm going to go down to right 1, down to right 1. And then remember, you do the opposite. So I'm going to go down to left 1, down to left 1, because remember, we have to form a V. So that's how we do that one by hand. I think it's just easier to do that one by hand. Okay, and now let's practice this other one. Let's all grab our graphing calculators and let's plug this thing into our graphing calculator. Okay. Would you guys like me to walk you through plugging that into the graphing calculator? I need feedback. What do you guys want? Graphing calculator? Yeah? Okay, that's fine. All right, to be able to graph anything at all, we have to push the y equals button. Yes, I agree. Where did it go? Oh, shoot. Oh, here it is. All right, so I'm going to hit the y equals button. Okay, and I'm just going to plug in our equation just as I see it. So I see there's a 2, there's a parentheses, we have x plus 1, and that's squared minus 4. Okay, and then I'm just going to hit graph, and now we have a parabola. Okay, so would you be able to graph that on your calculator and then look on your final and know which graph matches? Would you be able to do that? Okay. Do we have a button that can show us if it says, hey, what is your max, min, what are your intercepts? Do we have a button that does that for us? Yes. Could we also, if we're like, I want to know what this point is right here, do we have a button that does that for us? Could we look at the table? Can we do that for ourselves? Yeah. So use your graphing calculator, guys. It can do a lot for you, okay? Is everybody looking at this graph? Could you draw a little graph on your paper right now? Yes, Bayles, I could. Okay, so right now I'm doing a little graph like I saw it on there. Okay. Can we handle plugging things into our graphing calculator and graphing it? Okay. All right, I'm going to flip on. Can you guys do number 36 real quick by hand? Number 36. Number 36. All right, so we should have a slope of 3. Our vertex should be 4, -6. So we should all have a dot down here at 4, -6. And you should all go up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1, and then up 3, left 1. And you should have a V down over here. Okay, so can we handle plugging it into our calculator and graphing absolute by hand? Okay. Our next section is when we were graphing inequalities. Again, this is a section we are going to have memorized. Okay. Again, though, can our calculator graph lines for us? Could they graph y equals mx plus b for us? Okay. The only thing that our calculators have difficulty doing is doing shading and dashed lines. Okay. All right. So if we remember these, so again, this one, I have absolute value signs, so I know it's going to form a V. Okay. I see my slope is really a 1 out in front here. And then our vertex is going to be -2, -3. Okay. So we're going to graph it like we did before. Thank you. So I'm going to have a dot here at -2, -3. And I'm going to go up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1. And then I'm going to go up 1, left 1, up 1, left 1, up 1, left 1. Okay. And now here's where we have to remember this stuff here. I have a symbol that looks like this. So that means we're going to have a solid line. Okay. And it says greater than, so we're going to shade above. Yeah. Do you remember this? Okay. All right. This one right here, I want to do this one real quick. If we see here, even if we were going to plug this into our calculator, it's in what form right now? Standard. And to be able to graph by hand or using our calculator, we have to solve for y first. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the 2x. Okay. And then I'm going to divide everything by 3. So I have -2/3 x plus 3. Okay. Now from here, if you have forgotten how to graph lines, you can certainly plug it into your graphing calculator. I am hoping you guys do remember how to graph lines. Remember, the 3 means I start here at 3, and then my slope means I go down 2, right 3, down 2, right 3. Okay. This time, what kind of line are we going to have? What kind of line are we going to have dashed. And this time, where are we going to shade? Below. Yep, we're going to shade below. Okay. So the difference between these, because this one has our absolute value signs, that's why we have the V. That one doesn't, and that's why we don't have the V. Okay. Questions on that? Okay, everyone's okay. We're going to flip page. All right. We're going to do one more kind of like this, and then I'll have you guys try one, and then we'll be done with graphing for the day. Okay. Is everybody okay for me to click on? Okay. All right. Now, reminder, we did the same thing, and sometimes we had 2 of them. Okay. So, reminder for these, our double shaded region is your answer. So, on your final, it's going to say, click where the double shaded region is, and so you're going to have to click on the graph and say, this is where they would be double shaded. Okay. So, are these both ready to go? Or are they both in y equals mx plus b? Okay. This one right here, this top one says I'm going to start at 1, and then I'm going to go up to right 1, up to right 1. Okay. We are going to have a solid line. That's a very curvy solid line. And it says greater than, so I'm going to shade above. Okay. The other one, also ready to graph. This one I'm going to go down 2, and then my slope is telling me to go down 3, right 4, down 3, right 4. Oh my gosh, you guys. Hi, Isaiah. Do you want to put that on my desk, please? Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Do we have a solid line or a dashed line? Solid. We have a solid line. And this one says we are going to shade below the line. Okay. So that means our answer is here where it is double shaded. So on your tests, if they say click on the double shaded area, this is where you would click. Okay. How are we doing on this? Are we okay? Okay. I'm going to have you guys do number 42. 42. This one, our slope is -1, hence why our v is upside down. Okay, is everybody okay with that? We remember that. And then this like strip here is where we have our double shaded area. Okay, how are we doing with graphing? Again, do we have a calculator that can check all of our graphing for us? The only thing you need to remember, solid dashed shading. Okay, all right, we're going to flip the page. We have one last thing to talk about that we did in chapter 2, and then we are done. Thank goodness. Okay, is everybody, I'm going to click on, okay, all right. In chapter 2, this was probably our most difficult thing, and again, here's another section you're going to have memorized. We talked about reflections, we talked about stretches, we've talked about left, down, up, down, left, right. Do we remember this? Okay, so here's our next section that you will again have to have memorized. Okay, so when we have an x-axis reflection, reminder, it is our y that is negative. Okay, whereas it's the opposite for a y-axis reflection, it is our x that is negative. Cole? Okay, so if I'm doing an x-axis reflection, I'm just going to write this again just to make myself remember. Okay, I'm going to take my equation here, I'm going to change this to a y just to also help us out. Okay, and I'm going to take my equation and set my y to a negative. Okay, this looks ridiculous. To get rid of the negative, we're going to divide everything by -1. Okay, so now our y is positive, our 2x is negative, and our 7 is negative. Okay, so that is the x-axis reflection. It causes everything to flip. Okay, whereas the other one, when I do this y-axis reflection, it's our x that becomes negative. So I'm going to take my equation and I'm going to replace my x with a negative. Okay, so again, this looks a little ridiculous, so I'm going to fix this. And this is really just going to turn this to negative. So now I have y equals -2x plus 7. Okay, so it's just changing the x. Okay, do you remember this? Okay, to save time, are you guys okay if I give you some answers? And we move on to the next thing, okay? So I'll give you the answers on these if you guys want to look at these later. So this is D. This one is also D. And then we've got C, and we've got C. Okay, so x-axis, y change, y-axis, x change. Okay, all right, is everybody okay? I'm going to scroll. All right, last thing we're going to talk about is our rules, but I think you guys have a lot of these memorized. When we are talking about these, we're talking about our translations. This is our stretches, this is our left and our right. Okay, so first thing you might have to do is I'm going to give you an equation, and you have to tell me the two things that are happening. Okay, so if we remember, if we have a -4 here, it means it's going to go right 4. Okay, if you have a +7 chilling at the end there, that means it's going up 7. On your final, this would be a click and drag. I'm going to give you guys that hint already. So you would have to find the correct ones and say it's this one and it's this one. Do you notice how we have a lot of them that look very similar and you would be tempted to put the wrong one? Okay. We then are going to do the opposite. I'm going to give you a sentence and you have to fill in the blanks correctly. And again, it's going to be a click and drag that you have to put in the correct stuff. Okay. So this one says it's going to be right 5 and down 1. So since it's right 5, what would I put here? -5. Okay, so that would be the one you'd have to click and drag in there. And then down 1, we would have a -1. Okay. We'll do one more of these and then we'll be done, okay? All right, the stretch. Reminder, the stretch goes in front. Okay, so that would mean I would have a 2 in front here. This time I go left 3. What does it mean for left 3? What do I need? +3, exactly. We need a +3. And then it says down 5 units, so we would say minus 5. Okay. Do you guys want to try one of these real quick? You guys okay with this? I'll give you the answers for these. Is everyone okay for me to click on? Okay. All right. So for these, we would have a plus 2 and a minus 3. We would have a right 3 and an up 5. We'd have a stretch of 4, a plus 3, and a plus 5. And I'll just give you guys those. Okay.